Hello, everybody. This is Leo Brady here with AMovieGuy.com. I am incredibly excited today to be talking with a fantastic director of his new action film that's coming out on May 26th. It's Ric Roman Waugh. Thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me, Leo.
Yeah, so usually my interviews, I start them off with a question about like how you got inspired to start making movies, but you're a guy who's been in the industry for quite a long time now already. But do you have a certain movie or a moment that inspired you that made you say, I want to go and do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the weirdest. The irony of it is, I grew up in the heyday of the big action movies and worked on many of them as a stuntman, back in the 80s and the 90s. But the movies that really excited me were the Sidney Lumet movies, Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. These movies that took you on journeys in places that felt like you were in more of an experience than just watching a story. You felt like you were experiencing a world. So the things that I gravitate towards are whether it be prison, the end of the world with a comet, going to the Secret Service. And in this one, the minute I read Mitch Lafortune's script, Kandahar, it reminded me so much of Denis Villeneuve's Sicario, the way that Sicario took you into the war on drugs in a very different way than we'd ever seen before. Yeah. Kandahar does that with the Middle East. It shows you about the spy game that is never ending in the Middle East. And now with the U.S. withdrawal out of Afghanistan, how the world's players are going back in for a land grab, and what happened in the last 20 years. What was it all for?
Yeah. Well, and a cool thing too about you, about that, like, stuntman history, the movies you've been in, Lethal Weapon 2, Sudden Death, Last of the Mohicans, True Romance, and Roadhouse, a movie I absolutely love. But those kinds of movies, the stunts that they were doing were about as real as it gets. I mean, it was really like hardcore stuff. Have you tried to sort of merge a current time of stunt work with that old history of the way stunts used to be done, or is it trying to regenerate the past the way it was done? Because I feel like stunts were done, even though I know it's maybe a lot more dangerous, but also really cool.
Yeah, look, I mean, Tony Scott was my mentor, and I worked with him a number of years. And what I loved about Tony and what he preached is live or die by your own sword. Be your own brand, be your own voice. Don't emulate. Just be fearless in what you want to say. And a lot of people call me old school in the way that I shoot action, because my action is done real. Yeah. But I don't really see it that way. What my movies are about authenticity. So you're not going to really see a car fly out of a truck at, an airplane at 30,000 feet, land on its wheels and keep going. That guy's dead in my movie, right? So yeah. For me, it's about how you set up the action. And that's the difference. What I try to contribute is I want the audience to feel an emotional attachment to what the action is trying to say. Are we supposed to be excited? Are we supposed to be fearing for our lives, on the edge of our seat? So that when you're in these action sequences, you're not watching action for the sake of action, where your eyes roll over no matter how much money you throw at it. Yeah. I want to feel an emotional thrust of what that character is going through.
Yeah, well, I mean, and honestly, I absolutely loved this film. I mean, I thought this is some of your best work yet.
Thank you.
How did you get a hold of Mitchell Lafortune's script, and what was sort of the immediate reaction that made you say, "Yep, this is my next movie"?
I had just finished Greenland, and Mitch was working with me on that, doing some rewrites. Basil Iwanek was our producer at Thunder Road, and Basil's one of those producers I really admire, from Sicario to Wind River to the John Wick franchise, when nobody thought they'd ever make something like John Wick, guy, defending his dog. Yeah. And what's great is that he's showing that we can put movies out in theaters of this kind of ilk that don't have to just be big superhero movies or animated movies. And he brought up Mitch's script, Kandahar, and I just fell in love with it. And so, these are these labor of loves that we're hoping that people can really get behind and understand that we need to contribute as an audience, that if we love these adult-driven action movies and we want to go see real stories like this, let's get to the theaters and have a tub of popcorn and have a good old time for 2 hours and maybe have something to talk about after. But these kind of forms of entertainment are really in a very kind of crisis state now to becoming streaming movies only. So I appreciate your support and everybody about come to the theaters on Memorial Day weekend and have a good time. It's a big action ride. It has a lot to say. It's not mindless. And I'm really proud of Gerard Butler's performance in this. I think it's his best performance yet,
Yeah.
which is saying something after working with him on Greenland and then Angel Has Fallen.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of this one. So I'm doing everything I can to get people to understand it's a cool one to go see.
Yeah.
And it's a theatrical experience for sure.
For sure. Well, and you mentioned Gerard. I mean, as you said, it's your third time working with him, and talk about that relationship. How has that relationship grown from movie 1 to movie 3? Do you guys feel like you guys just have a sort of mental connection where you guys don't even have to speak too much to each other and you can just get on set and go?
There's definitely that. We're very close and you know, and like brothers, and brothers fight too. And it's because we're both very passionate, and neither of us want to rest on our laurels, and neither of us want to repeat, right? We're always trying to figure out what's new. So Mike Banning was the one that we finally collaborated on for the first time. We'd known each other for quite a while, but to take the heroes of the 70s and the 50s that were flawed, they were not impervious to pain, they were not 10 feet tall and bulletproof, you know, and to turn Mike Banning into a pill popping, you know, guy that's trying to, you know, outdo his own mortality and not hang up the gun. And what are the ramifications of that? It became a unique experience that we hadn't seen before. The guy that was a wrecking machine that didn't have any flaws at all. And then to go to Greenland was amazing because it was like, you don't got any special skill sets. And you're now just a mortal like us. And all you have is your heart and your will to survive. And how far would you test your own morality to save your family?
Yeah.
Kandahar puts it all together. Kandahar takes the action hero, but only makes him a man of action who has his own flaws of being war addicted and so forth. But he never is an action hero in the movie. He's a man of action, and he's like us. He reminds us of the way that a lot of our heroes of the 70s and the 50s did as well.
Yeah, well, and something that I've picked up from watching a lot of your movies, and the answer might just be that you are a father yourself, but a lot of these movies that you've made, from Snitch to Greenland, Kandahar, these are flawed fathers. You take a really interesting and I think like honest approach towards masculinity, towards the way men deal with the grief or the strength that they have to show in dangerous times. What is it about that keeps drawing you to sort of study that or make a movie about men that, like you said, aren't bulletproof and have to sort of act in moments of, you know, be courageous when sometimes that's the hardest thing to do?
Yeah, I think I've definitely done movies where most of them are with leading men, but I feel for me, that it's not about the man, it's about the human being, and that we are all flawed individuals. And I think a lot of times in this world today, we don't forgive anybody for having a single fault or a point of view or an opinion. And I kind of love to explore the gray of mankind. Like, I don't think we're a black and white society or human beings. I know I'm not. I'm definitely far from perfect. And for me, I relate to people that aren't afraid to show those kind of flaws and those type of complex emotions that are trying to get over things. And Greenland was a really fun movie for us because Morena Baccarin, man, she just killed it, you know, and she had as much to do as Jerry in the movie as far as all the things she had to go through. And what we loved about Kandahar, and this is a huge testament to Gerard Butler, a lot of guys that go into a movie and with this many points of view, they're like, the camera goes right here, nowhere else. But he wasn't about that. He was a staunch supporter of making sure that everybody's character got all of the different nuances that they deserve to make them multidimensional in a way that you suddenly feel empathy for people you never thought you'd feel empathy for. And that was very attractive to both of us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I have to get a little bit into the behind the scenes details about the action sequences here. You have two like absolutely stunning sequences. It's interesting. You already brought up Sicario, the night vision sort of. There's a night vision battle against like a helicopter that is just absolutely exciting, enthralling, like has you gripping into your seat. And then you also have got this work with like a motorbike that I have never seen some of it done ever. Talk about setting that stuff up and making that stuff work. I mean, that's really great stuff.
Well, one, you're looking back at the movies of David Lean and John Ford, you know, in the middle of the desert of Lawrence Arabia or The Searchers, or these movies. And I'm like, I'm out in this big playing field. I want to make a modern day Western. I don't want the guy on the black horse that's your bad guy. He's going to be on a black motorcycle, and it's going to be this contemporary spy world. But also, how do you show the landscapes of the desert, where during the day you can show the beauty of the region, at night they're pitch black? And so we indoctrinated not only normal infrared thermal or night vision, but also this new technology called fusion, which puts thermal and infrared together, and you can change colors into black and white. So suddenly I get to be Ansel Adams at night, showing the desert in a different way, but also the one main sequence that was by far the most dangerous one that we did and took a lot of choreography and a lot of rehearsal time was the helicopter battle at night, because we wanted it to feel like Jaws at night, Jaws in the sky, where when you're dangling in the water, it's not that it's so scary when you see the shark, it's when you can't see where the shark is. And we wanted that same feel of not when you can't see the helicopter and you're only on your 2 feet. How do you survive that? So we wanted that kind of tension with it, and play with the multi formats of night vision, thermal, and so forth, to kind of juxtapose things, of giving the audience the narrative beats that they needed, but also scare the crap out of them when they can't see what's going on. And all they can do is hear that helicopter reverberating, off of the rocks.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I love to sort of understand that behind the scenes, like how you got that done. It's really cool. 2 more questions before I have to let you go.
Okay.
I know that it's big in the news right now. Cliffhanger, there's like talks of you directing a new Cliffhanger. Do you think, is that sort of a tough sort of thing to bridge, because that's a movie that people are like, well, why does it need a sequel, or why does it need to be redone? But as we talked about, we kind of need to bring action movies back like that. So are you, talk about how excited you are for that project, and what sort of people can expect?
Well, I'm with you on that one. We need to get these big action movies back into movie theaters so they do not become a dying breed. And that's why Kandahar is so important, to support on Memorial Day weekend and really show that we can battle those action heroes called the Little Mermaid. We can go out there and do business. But what's fun about what's going on now about the older titles carrying forward is we're not making remakes anymore. The remakes bored me, and I think they bored a lot of people. But when you're doing Top Gun Maverick and you're carrying the nostalgia of the first movie forward with new story, the way that Sylvester Stallone, which is another man that I have a lot of respect for, that has created some of the most iconic characters of all time, but also has been gracious to pass them along to the next generation, the way that he passed the Rocky franchise to Michael B. Jordan and Creed. We're doing the same thing with Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger will be Sylvester Stallone playing his age, having a daughter of his own now, and an heir apparent guy that's has been his number one person. And when tragedy breaks, it breaks the family apart, and it's about them atoning. But of course, we're in Cliffhanger, so all hell's going to break loose in the Italian Alps. And with technology, we're going to raise the bar to a whole other level. So we're super excited about what the action can do, but it's also about carrying that emotional thrust of what we loved about the original movie, the tragedies that Stallone's character had to deal with, the big extravagant, action sequences, and then taking it to a whole other level, but carrying that story forward.
Yeah. Well, they're giving me the wrap up. Ric Roman Waugh, that was so great. Thank you so much for talking with me today. We hope so many people go out to see Kandahar. It's in theaters nationwide Friday, May 26th. Congratulations, man. This movie is one of the best action movies of the year.
Leo, I appreciate you, bud. Thank you so much. Thanks for helping spread the word.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, man. Cheers.